Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We'll take you through the newspapers and see what the front pages of the papers are saying. And right after that, we'll introduce to you our guests. Let's bring up our first paper this morning. And the first paper that we're going to be looking at is This Day newspaper. On the front page of This Day newspaper, Tinubu increases 2025 budget from 49.7 trillion naira to 54.2 trillion naira. And we see here it justifies why Mineral Resources Ministry was allocated extra 1 trillion naira. Shares additional revenues to Bank of Agric, Industry, Military orders. Bagudu explains increment. National Assembly promises, excuse me, to pass appropriation bill this month. Opposition lawmaker kicks. History as Dangote refinery exports 2 cargoes of jet fuel to Saudi Aramco. Court delivers ruling on NNPC's objection to refinery suit March 18. Wando offers shareholders additional stocks valued at 97.6 billion naira. And final story, PDP crisis. Party Board of Trustees urges the National Working Committee to swear in Ude Okoye as National Secretary. That's all on This Day newspaper. Let's move on to the next.
The next paper we'll be looking at is the Daily Independent with the headline, PDP crisis, BOT backs governors, recognizes Ude Okoye as party scribe, and the rider says supports March 13 for PDP National Executive Council meeting. And also in the front page of the Daily Independent, Tinubu jacks up 2025 budget from 49.7 trillion to 54.2 trillion naira. We just had that discussion before we started the newspaper headlines. Tinubu departs for France ahead of OAU summit in Addis Ababa. And we also have on the front page of the Daily Independent, Gandhi J says Tinubu's reforms painful but unavoidable. And there's also a headline at the top of the Daily Independent newspaper there, Obasanjo Sultan can others preach religious tolerance for a united nation. You can't stress the importance of that. And we also have Dogara attributes Boko Haram other security challenges to bad governance. There's a headline there that says electoral fraud court jails another professor in Akwa Ibom. I wonder what is happening with professors. Just yesterday, the President sacked 3 resident electoral commissioners, and there were lots of academics among them. 90 mounts pressure and Senate for solid mineral sector reforms. And lastly, reps urge FG to declare Ondo coastal communities disaster zones.
All right, these are the papers that we have this morning. If we have some time, we'll take some more. But let's introduce to you our guest, and then we can react to the story that we took before we went on the break. On my immediate left, I have Public Affairs Analyst, Professor Simeon Nna. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and wearing my collar, we have Mr. George Ashiru. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
It seems like we did the color coordination and we planned it, and it's good to have you in the studio this time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think I'll start with you, Mr. Ashiru, to talk about the ongoing drama with Mr. Obasa and what exactly is going on. Initially, it was him being, quote-unquote, sidelined. I don't know that he saw that coming, and finally he's back, but there are talks of him potentially being reinstated, even though that has been debunked. There's also talks of him still being in the Speaker's Lodge, and I just want to get a general sense of what you feel about the whole story.
Well, the State Assembly is an organ of the people. You know, we elected them individually into office. And so whatever happens within that caucus of government is of great interest to the electorate, especially for those who are in the opposition like ourselves. We are really interested in ensuring that proper democracy is being practiced, and it lays a good foundation for the future prosperity. So I think what we have a challenge with is the secrecy around the whole thing. Removing of anyone in office is a statutory right of those who we elected there to hold them to account. So if he's to be removed, or he was removed, the only thing we ever expect from those who are representing us in the House of Assembly is tell us why. And preferably put him through the justice system. Let him be able to defend himself, explain himself. So for now, all we have is one side of the story. We have not had opportunity at all. No platform has been provided for Obasa to give us his own side of the story. So you really shouldn't.
But he did have a press conference, sort of,
That's
when he
not
returned from America.
That's not the platform. That is not a criminal justice process. It should be tried, tested. You know, the people should be able to ask him questions. He should go through, if it's EFCC or ICPC, that they have done that in other cases, in other governors' cases, and other political situations. So I think that's where we have a problem. I'm sure they have attempted to remove him 1,000,000 times before we had finally happened. Never happens in politics. You know, it's internally, he must have done what is needed to stay in office that long.
Right.
And then this time around, he just happened to have cut him.
I mean, all that we see are speculations as to why they must have removed him. On the one hand, people say that it's because he dared to rear his head and potentially look at himself as someone who would run for office, gubernatorial position. They said he disrespected Sanwo-Olu. There are allegations of fraud against him. You are the chairman of the African Democratic Congress.
Yes.
Talk to us about the implications of what this might mean if it never gets to court, if he never gets a chance for a fair hearing, and, you know, if he just decides to take things lying.
The only thing that concerns us when it comes to people who are elected into office is if he violates the Constitution. We're not interested in whether his personal relationship with the governor. Exactly. We're not interested in whether he has 2 shoulders or 1 head or five fingers that are in the wrong places. What counts is the dividends of democracy, which is what we voted for. So if he has violated that part, that trust that we put in him, lay it out, preferably before he's removed.
Can I?
You know?
Now, I want to bring Prof into the conversation.
Okay.
These are elected officials, both the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, the former Speaker, and all the members. Nigerians and Lagosians elected them, and they have a right to know what is really happening, because they didn't put themselves there. They are answerable to the electorate. At what point does this stop becoming a family matter, an internal political matter, and what is the rightful thing to do? Because all we're hearing is they want to meet the president. Mr. President is busy with matters of state, and he shouldn't be bothering with domestic politics and things that are happening in Lagos State. He's not the emperor of Lagos. The politicians should be answerable to the people. So, Prof, what do you make of all this? We thought it was done and dusted, and it has not stayed away from the news.
I think the thing has been overflogged. However, I have challenges with the removal. You don't shave a man's head behind him. He was not around. He was not even in the country.
But the law doesn't say you can't be impeached or you can't be removed if you're not on seat.
Which law? Any law that is contrary to the national constitution is wrong. Because the constitution, although some of us don't agree with that constitution, because the opening statement, we the people, is the fraud that I've had in this century, because nobody elected anybody to draft that constitution. That's a matter for another.
But the lawyers will say it was legally removed.
That's a matter of another. Sorry?
The lawyers argue that Obasa was legally removed by a majority of the National State House of Assembly members.
The so-called constitution of this country that I know makes it imperative that if you want to remove an elected officer, he must be physically present. And then you now say the things that he's done wrong, and then ask him to step aside. And then maybe the deputy will take over, and then the process will continue until he's being removed. But this one, the man was not around. You just gathered people and say he's been removed. And again, I don't know the part of the so-called GAC. That is, by its name, Governor Advisory Council. So it should be advising the governor, not advising the states. But they have taken the position of advising the states on what the state should do. I think that is basically wrong. So we should begin to watch this trajectory, because it's getting out of hand. They must do something and do it fast too. I think there are illegalities everywhere.
What about the allegations of financial misconduct?
Has it been proven? It's just an allegation. It's been alleged. So the person that alleged should go ahead and prove it in court. Until it's proven. I'm not siding anybody. But those allegations must be proven. If you know me, I say it the way it is. I don't care whose horse is God's. That's the way it should be. They have to go to court and prove those things in court, that actually he did those things. You know, because it's preposterous for somebody to build a gate for over $1 billion. Man, which country does that?
It's 17 billion, allegedly.
Which country does that? 17 billion, whooping 17 billion. That's a state's budget. for crying out loud, and use it to build a gate. So let them come and tell us how those things happen. He has said that he has documents to show that those things were, fabricated stories. So we want to hear the truth. Let them go to court, and let's see how these things will pan out.
Wow.